Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadidamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Have you ever noticed how quickly you begin speaking right after you wake up? Maybe you reach for your phone, you turn on the television, you start chatting with your partner, narrating your day, or thinking out loud. We often complain that the world around us is too noisy. But today I want to suggest that much of the noise that is exhausting us is our own. And I want to discuss the greatest spiritual practice available, that is moving into the transformative power of silence. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. Namaste and welcome to the Spiritual Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Savitri Amba, Director of the American Reiki Academy and the Vedic Healing Center. I'm a Reiki Master, Vedic Healing Master, and spiritual guide who has practiced and taught spiritual self-development and healing for more than 35 years, led pilgrimages to India, and studied with blessed Indian gurus. In this show, we cover topics related to metaphysics, Reiki, Vedic healing, yoga, manifestation, spiritual growth, and feng shui based upon my studies and work in these disciplines. The aim of this show is to help you awaken, develop, and tap into your spiritual power in order that you may live well, manifest your dreams, and ultimately fulfill your unique divine destiny. So today I want to explore the transformative spiritual power of silence. And I'm not simply speaking about the silence from the television or social media or escaping the world, which we often say we complain, it's so noisy. There's so much noise around us. But the silence that comes when we consciously stop filling every moment of our day with our own words. And some of the notes I wrote down today, the first thing I wrote was, our speech pours out of us on a regular basis, like waves crashing on the sea. The words tumble forth and either hit the ground or help others around us. So that's the little kind of analogy I wrote down. So I think of the words pouring out of us and either being helpful to others and to ourselves, or kind of accosting others or ourselves. And I've spoken about this before in other episodes, but today I wanted to speak about it some more, and it's kind of a paradox because here I am speaking about silence, but the only way to convey this message is through speaking. So for many years, I've spent time in ashrams and spiritual communities where periods of silence are considered an important practice. They are considered really an essential practice. They are considered, these periods that we consciously devote ourselves to going within and not speaking. They are considered so vital in our development. And at first, that silence feels uncomfortable. I remember one of the first ashrams I went to, and I'd never been to an ashram before. And an ashram is basically a spiritual community. So it's a community where people are devoted to their spiritual development and transformation. And often there is a teacher at that ashram, a guru that people are following and listening to and learning from. So the first time I went, it was this ashram that it's actually in the United States. And I encountered a person with a small tag on, wearing a tag that said, I'm in silence. And I thought it was so fascinating. And the person who was guiding me said, oh yes, you'll see people like that around the ashram who have decided to consciously go into silence for a period. So they keep the note on their body in order that you don't that you don't dialogue with them, or you may dialogue with them, but you don't expect dialogue back from them. But often there's no dialogue with them at all. So maybe you're just pointing to something, but you're not speaking to them. Say they may not want to take in speech from others, but they're certainly not going to they're not going to speak to you. So it's a very beautiful practice. It's called Mauna in Sanskrit, and it is a practice that we consciously do on a regular basis for many reasons. So I'm going to touch upon some of those reasons, and I'm going to talk about how you can also cultivate this silence on a regular basis. So really something remarkable happens when we become quiet, and that is, well, first of all, everything settles down inside. So before I even say anything else, things are going to settle down. But at first, this may be challenging. Again, it may be uncomfortable, for people around you also, because it's unusual for them. But what happens is, after things start to settle down, we begin to hear and perceive our intuition more clearly. I always call this the whisperings of our soul. So we're going to start perceiving messages, and it may not even be necessarily messages, but it may just be a presence, like subtle movements of calmness in the body that normally are so drowned out by constant conversation. So I think I started this episode by saying, I'm not sure if I did, but that silence is not empty. It is a presence. So it's not the lack of something. It's actually the fullness of something. And we may say, oh, it's the lack of speaking. And in one sense it is, I guess. But it is also the fullness of something so much greater than speech. So one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves on a regular basis is to become comfortable enough with being in silence. And today, let's talk about that. And I want to give again some tips on how you can use this conscious practice even in your daily life. So you don't have to go to an ashram to use the practice of silence and to benefit from it. So in all spiritual traditions, I believe, no matter what the religious background, there is the emphasis put on being in silence. And this is so the mind can settle down. The nervous system, which we love to talk about these days, that's such a common phrase you hear, but your nervous system also settles down, calms down. Your breathing becomes more deep, and an intelligence from deep within you starts to emerge. That intelligence is what we mask through a lot of this endless talking. And your intuition that begins really being very prevalent is, again, not something you're creating. It's something that's already there, that's just been covered up. It's been buried by maybe layers of noise. So again, it's the outside noise, but also the noise coming from your own being. Now, in this episode, I'm not going to speak about the noise of your thoughts, but that is also very dominant in our systems. Right now, I'm just speaking about the noise coming from your vocal cords, you speaking, you, and even in the beginning, I said something about taking out your phone, and it could be talking on the phone, it could be texting on the phone, all of this kind of chatter that's going to come from you. So the clearest insights you are going to get are going to come from cultivating this silence. And you can do this while walking, while sitting, while gardening, while being in nature. And this time that you will spend quieting everything down, is going to amplify all of ultimately the projects that you're doing and the work that is yours to put forth in this world. So I'm going to give you 3 really simple tips, and I hope these will give you kind of a framework for how to start going into Mauna and valuing this process of slipping into Mauna on a daily basis, just like we value eating good food or maintaining our bodies or going to sleep at a certain hour. Let us start thinking about how important it is to be in silence. So the 3 tips are very simple. And the first one is, and I know I've spoken about this before, but it is to maintain silence at the beginning of your day. Now, really consciously, what I mean by this is when you get up, to see how long you can stay without talking to anyone. I don't mean this to be anything rigorous. You know, you have to communicate with whomever lives in your home, but to make it known, maybe, to the other people in your home that you are going to be in silence in the morning. And over time, they will come to respect that and honor it. And what's happening is you're also setting up a beautiful force field in the home for peace and tranquility, and maybe influencing the others in your household by your example to also experiment with some times of silence. Now, the second tip is, and I'm thinking about how to phrase this, because what I wrote down was insist on having more silent friends. Now, what I mean by that is we all have friends who sometimes seem to drain us. It's like, I think it comes from the fact that everybody is suffering in some way and everybody wants help. So in order to get help, we talk to other people. And sometimes we have friends who talk incessantly, and they need to talk. That's fine. But perhaps they are, the extremely chatty ones are going to be no longer a great match for you. You will not resonate with somebody who wants to endlessly speak to you without taking a breath. A conversation is a back and forth, not a one-way barrage of information. And just as we wouldn't do that to others with anything other than speech, like we wouldn't overload them with our physicality, physically, like pushing ourselves on someone. Speaking too much is also a way of overloading someone. And as healers, we are, and spiritual practitioners, conscious spiritual practitioners, we often are empaths. So we are very good at listening. But after a while, we start to realize that having friends around us who are more moderate in their speech is going to feel much healthier. It doesn't mean we let go of all of our friends, but notice the friends who are incessantly talking and who may be actually draining you through their talking. They feel good after the conversation, but you may not. So start to cultivate more silent friends. And again, this doesn't mean people who never speak, but often when you're around people who are, again, consciously working on their spiritual path, you will find a great resonance with them because there will be a stillness in their system. And the talking comes, but it is a peaceful talking, and it is not a barrage of information. So again, a lot of this comes from human suffering. So I'm not saying be insensitive, but I am saying choose wisely. This is why often we like to be in the company of other practitioners. There is a resonance, and there is a really peaceful presence that we get from the communion with one another. And the last tip is to end your day in silence. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, but if you notice, what I did was I spoke about the morning, the middle of the day, the end of the day. We're always thinking about this cycle. So creation, sustenance, destruction, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. The energy of God, God, the generator, the operator, the destroyer. So energy is generated in the morning, and we're going to generate a lot of that through silence. And then our spiritual practice, which silence is part of that. And then the operating part of the day is when we're all more alive and we are out there creating. But during that time, be aware of conversing and which conversations are beneficial and which are draining you. And then the last part of the day, the destructive part, which is, again, that word destruction is not negative. It is an ending so that it is a winding down so that new things can emerge in the morning. So at the end of the day, cultivating conscious silence. And a lot of people don't do this because they will watch TV before bed. That's noise. They will talk and talk and talk to their family members until they're exhausted and then lie down and try to sleep, or they're on the computer. So instead, moving into silence, doing some meditation before bed, some chanting, and you might say, oh, chanting isn't quiet, but there are different levels of chanting. There is the audible chanting, and then there is chanting that you do quietly. There are actually even different levels of quiet chanting. So it is said that those levels are more powerful than the audible levels. And that is because you build up energy in your system as you chant, and then you create a force field. So that force field, which is silent, is where all the pristine energies are that will actually cure. They say it's when the curative powers are most alive. And I know I've said this before too. When I would see Sai Baba in India, he would say, after his darshan, the darshan is where the guru is meeting you and conveying blessings in whichever way. Many gurus do it differently, do different ways of conveying a blessing. They may be gazing at you. They may be speaking to you. They may be touching you, interacting just in different ways, like Amachi, the hugging saint. She's known for hugging people. That is her darshan. So the most powerful space is after the darshan. The darshan is like the influx of energy, and then all that power is alive in your energy field following the influx. So the silence that you cultivate after your day is so important for not only winding down, obviously, but tapping into divine energies at night. The divine energies at night feel different from the energies in the early morning or during the day. So you can meditate anytime. It's very nice to tap into the different energies of the day through meditation. But remember that the times you consciously cultivate silence are going to not only calm you and give you great peace and presence and a blissful feeling, but they are going to fuel and animate what you will create. At the beginning of this episode or these podcasts, I always say that the aim of this podcast is to help you tap into your spiritual power so that you can awaken and live well, manifest what you are here to do, create your unique divine destiny. How can we do that if we are not available to be silent and listen and receive divine wisdom? In the silence also, there is surrendering, because we are saying we do not know everything. Often when we're talking, we're expressing, maybe always we're expressing, let's say, we're expressing what we know to be true. Right now, I'm expressing to you what I feel and know to be true for me, what I have learned along my journey. But when I go into silence, I'm in a space of listening and surrendering to the divine wisdom. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this motivated you to think about consciously going into Mauna, silence, at certain points during your day, and to cultivate that silence in the company that you keep, and value this silence. It is so precious and so transformative, and always so blissful. So if we can touch that bliss during our lifetimes, then we are doing well. We are really, on some level, excelling. I'm going to end by just saying that, from the moment we get up, we seem to be in a race to create and to amass and to compete and to strive. And the silence represents a letting go and just a settling into awareness. I think there's nothing more I can say on this topic other than to try this. And I need to end this in silence, because if I keep speaking, then I am not demonstrating what I want you to feel. You can feel it, though, by taking a deep breath in wherever you are right now, in through the nose, and release. And be in the stillness for a moment. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Sai Ram. Jai Guruji. Om Amriteshwariye Namaha. Hare Krishna. Om Namah Shivaya.